Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes, A Conversation with Death. The man who rules the world and the angel of darkness take on a horde of demons in this inaugural John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, A Conversation with Death for 99 cents on Kindle or in paperback today. A lot of goths are writers, and many people in the subculture want to eventually write their own book one day and have that book published by a traditional publishing house. And many people in the subculture believe that if they can't get their book published by a traditional publishing house, that self-publishing is something they should consider as a last resort. Now, I believe that many people in the subculture should consider self-publishing as their first choice because when it comes down to self-publishing, it can be far more rewarding for a goth or an alternative person to publish their own book than to try to go out here and try to get it published by a traditional trade publisher. Now, when it comes down to many trade publishers out here, they are very hesitant to publish books that feature alternative narratives. And I know this for a fact because for many years I tried to get books like The Temptation of John Haynes published by traditional trade publishers, and I was met with hostile responses when I tried to submit books that featured darkly inclined themes like those in The Temptation of John Haynes published by traditional trade publishers and literary agents. So they really don't like to publish books that fit certain narratives that are darkly inclined or books that are related to the goth subculture. However, in today's publishing world, no one really has to go to a traditional trade publisher anymore. With advances in technology with feature for print-on-demand publishing and ebooks, that same alternative person can go out and publish their own book, and they can reach the marketplaces all over the world. And that's what I've done over the last 10 years with the SJS Direct imprint. With the SJS Direct imprint, I wanted to create one, positive stories featuring African Americans and the African American experience, and I wanted to explore diverse genres of African American fiction, like African American fantasy, and books like the Spinsterella trilogy, which feature an African American goth character. And I would not be able to set up even query for that type of book at a traditional trade publishing house because when it comes down to many trade publishers, they really don't want to, again, sell darkly inclined fiction, and they didn't want to sell African American darkly inclined or goth fiction. So that's why I went with the self-publishing route for books like Spinsterella, Spellbound, The Legendary Mad Matilda, The Temptation of John Haynes, and my Isis and Esteem series books, because those books would get no support at a trade publishing house. And when it comes down to self-publishing, it's not really that hard. All you need is a laptop computer and 3 pieces of software. First, you're going to need Microsoft Word to lay out the pages of your manuscript into a book format, and that's not hard at all. And then second, you're going to need Adobe Acrobat to create the PDF files for your book. And third, you may need Adobe Photoshop Elements or Adobe Photoshop to create the cover for your book. And with those 3 pieces of software, you can create paperbacks and you can create ebooks. And you can go to websites like Amazon's CreateSpace, Barnes & Noble's publishing website, Barnes & Noble Press, Smashwords, the iBookstore, and even the Google Play Store, and you can set up your own publishing platform on those websites for your books. And with Smashwords, that you can set up a platform that will distribute your ebooks not only on Smashwords but to Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and many other websites, and even many public libraries where and the iBookstore, and your book will be seen all over the world. Now, many people in the subculture believe that if they go to a trade publishing house, there are going to be some benefits to it. Well, as someone who has worked with the publishing industry, I can tell you there's not that many benefits these days to working with a trade publishing house that you couldn't do yourself. Now, many people believe that a publishing house will give you better distribution, but you're going to get the same distribution you would get from the trade publishing house that you would get from uploading your book to CreateSpace or Barnes & Noble Press, because your book will be available on all of these websites, and while it won't be in the bookstores can order it, and the libraries can order it in the exact same way. And when it comes down to the distribution, you will not only get your book distributed not only in the US, but it'll be distributed all over the world. And the best thing about it when you self-publish is you retain all the rights to your book, because when you sell your book to a trade publisher, they get the US printing rights for that book, and then you have to try to find ways to negotiate the foreign rights for your book. But when you go through self-publishing, your rights are all yours, you control all your rights, and you can keep your book in print for as long as you want. Because that's one of the disadvantages of trade publishing, is that in trade publishing, oftentimes you may get a book published and it may take a long time to do it, but the book won't stay in print no longer than maybe 6 months to a year, because in the traditional trade publishing business, 90% of all books fail. And once a book is failed, oftentimes a publisher will move on to the next group of authors. However, when you self-publish, you maintain power and control over your career, and you can keep a book in print for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 or 15 years. I've kept books like The Temptation of John Haynes in print for over 7 to 8 years, and I've had books like Isis in print for over 15 years. So the books remain in print, whether in paperback or digital format, and they stay in print for as long as you want them to stay in print on a platform. And that means that readers can go out and find your book at any time, and that gives you time to go out and really work towards building an audience. And that's something you really are going to do on your own anyway, because in most cases for first-time authors, trade publishing houses do not give you any support. So yes, they will publish your book and it will be a mid-list book, but you're going to have to go out here and do most of the work promoting it. That means you're going to have to go and try to talk to bookstores about book signings. It means you're going to have to go out and talk to the bookstores about promoting your book, and you're going to have to talk to bookstores about trying to sell your book. And that's just a lot of work to do when the publishing house should be doing some of that for you, but they don't do it in most cases for first-time authors. They will do it for best-selling authors, but they won't do it for a mid-list author. And the only way you're going to get your audience built is if you go out and build it yourself. And if you're going to go out and build it yourself, you should be compensated for the time and effort you put into promoting your work. And the rewards you get for promoting your work with a trade house really aren't that beneficial. When it comes down to trade publishing houses, on a paperback or a hardcover, you're only getting 10% of the royalties on that book you do through a trade publishing house. And on a $15 paperback or a $25 hardcover, that means you're only getting $1.50 or $2.50 at best. If you go through CreateSpace or you go through KDP, Smashwords, or one of the other online digital booksellers, you are going to get maybe 35-40% of the list price of that book minus printing costs. So you're going to get maybe $3 to $5 per book if you go through CreateSpace. And if you go through Kindle and you put a decent price on your book, you're going to get $2, $3, maybe $4 on each book. So you're going to make more money on each book. And you deserve to be rewarded for all the hours you put in to writing that book, editing that book, doing the page layouts for that book, and going out here and doing things like talking to artists about designing your cover and then doing the layout work on that book. So you do all the work and you're going to get all the rewards for putting that book together. And you can easily build an audience on a platform for your book by going out and doing things like making videos on YouTube, maintaining a blog, or talking on social media. And many people in the subculture who are very popular, they have 10,000 subs, 15,000 subs, 20,000 subs, and they don't really think about how that audience is your customer base and how you can sell your book to that audience on social media, because that's what I did with Spellbound and the Spinsterella trilogy. I got on YouTube and I went out and I sold to my audience on the YouTube platform. I went out and I made a teaser ad for Spellbound. Then I made several ads related to promoting Spellbound, and then I made several promotional videos promoting Spellbound, talking about themes related to the book, and I also talked about things that were related to the subculture as related to the book, and I talked about different story points in the book, and all of that allowed me to build an audience, and it allowed me to allow the audience to see what the book was about, see what made the book interesting, and it gave them an incentive to go out and buy the book. And people who have larger platforms than I do, again, they could use YouTube to go out here and build an audience for their book. I mean, if you have 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 100,000 subs, you could easily be able to sell 1 to maybe 5,000 copies of a book to that audience, especially if you have a really large audience. And that's what may get the attention of these trade publishers, because if they see you selling 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, that's something that may get them interested, and then you may have a better position of leverage to negotiate a better deal for yourself. But when it comes down to it, you've already made the money, so you can really say that I really don't need the trade publishers at that point. And that's where people in the subculture really need to be. They need to be thinking about, instead of trying to send books to traditional trade publishers, thinking about building your own business. Because as I see it, if you're going to be a part of the subculture and everything is about DIY, the ultimate part of DIY is building an economic platform and an economic base for yourself. And many Goths, they build economic platforms and economic bases for themselves with Etsy stores and eBay stores. And what I want people to see is that they can use print-on-demand platforms and ebook platforms to build their own business platform and have another revenue stream that's there for them to make money for themselves. Because I've gone out with the Spinsterella trilogy and built a platform and the Temptation of John Haynes and several of my ISIS series books. And this is something you could do as well, because as I see it, time is something that is precious, and people in the subculture need to understand the time you took to write that book was precious to you. The book means something to you, and you shouldn't waste time trying to query a bunch of authors, trying to get not authors, agents and publishers, trying to get their attention and approval. You value your work, you believe in your work, and because you value and believe in your work, you should go out and have the confidence to go out here and sell your own work to readers. And that's all you have to do is have that confidence, and you can go out here and build your own platform, build your own audience, and create your own platform for selling your stories to readers, because that's what SJS Direct is. It's Sean James's stories direct to the author. I want to give my stories direct to the author, to the readers, so the readers can go make their own choice about my work. And you can make that choice yourself about my work or any other author's work, but you just have to have the confidence to go out here and put it up there. I mean, all when I was first starting out, I was very scared to put my work out there, but I realized that once I let go of my work, I could go out and write more stories. And over the last couple of years, I've written over 50 books, and you could write as many books as you like as well. But you just have to have the confidence to go out here and use the tools around you, because people in the subculture, they're very creative and they use the tools around them. But what I want to see more people in the subculture do is start thinking about using the business tools around them to start building economic platforms for themselves, because a lot of goths, again, they are writers and they want to write books, and that's one of their goals, but they think of self-publishing as a bad thing. They think of it as a last resort. But I'm here to tell you that it's not a last resort. It should be a first choice, because you can build an audience on a print-on-demand platform these days, and you can build a big audience these days, because if you can get 5, 10, 15, 20, even 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, you can get 10, 15, 20, 25,000 sales on online platforms, because most people today, they buy their books not at bookstores, but they buy them at online booksellers, and they buy them at online booksellers like Amazon, because they can bundle their orders and bundle their purchases together and have all of those items shipped together in one box. So that's an advantage to you for working with a print-on-demand publisher. And that's something many people in the subculture should consider, because you can reach audiences all over the world. I've reached readers not only in the US by publishing on online platforms, but I've reached readers in the UK, Germany, France, Australia, Japan, and Canada, and Mexico, and I've gotten an international audience that's all over the world for numerous titles in the SJS Direct imprint. And you can build that platform for yourself, but all it takes is you using the tools around you in the way many people in the subculture use the same tools around them to DIY a t-shirt to make it distinct. You can build a book publishing platform for yourself, where you build your own brand and build your own audience in the same way. If you'd like to pick up the books in the Spinsterella trilogy, Spinsterella, Spellbound, and Legendary Mad Matilda, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. And if you want to try out some of my other darkly inclined fiction, like the Temptation of John Haynes series, the John Haynes series, or the ISIS series books, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.